And we're live. It is Monday, the 3rd of March, or as it is sometimes known, the day 12 days before the Ides of March. It is the year of our Lord 2025 when we make up how days are named because that is no less absurd than the world we live in. It is 8:02 a.m. I am tired from a weekend of projecting and being a schmuck and running around town with equipment and underdressed for sudden changes of the weather. And to celebrate our predicament, the cactus has brought a friend. Holly, tell us about the snowman.
Well, first of all, do you want the cactus to do the intro?
I do think the cactus should do the intro.
You're watching Dog Shirt TV, an epic revolution in morning television.
You are watching Dog Shirt TV, and it is an effing revolution in Dog Shirt TV. And one of the more inexplicably revolutionary aspects of it is that we have a cactus who we have given a kind of legend to, and he has a friend who appears to be a CIA snowman, and they are all manipulated mostly without explanation by a former CIA analyst who, we humor with this because it's one of the sort of long running gags that we have on this show. And where else can you watch a distinguished former Africa analyst at CIA who only recently stepped down, by the way? It's not like this was some past life a long time ago, who outed herself on the show, play with imaginary friends, one of which introduces the show. We're not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to have the CIA snowman. So, Holly, who is it? Tell us about him or her or it.
Well, I forgot I had this, but this is a very important character. Once again, the exact history of CIA Snowman is classified.
Of course.
Um, Obviously was used in various operations that we can't talk about.
Can
So
Minna talk about them? Or did the CIA snowman assist in the Winter War or?
you can draw your own conclusions. It is
Mhm.
snow, and there is snow in that area. As and also in what's it called?
Svalbard, yeah.
Svalbard, which I can't say.
Yeah, it's hard. It's you say it like it's Svalbard, but then you turn the
Svalbard.
V into a W because,
Svalbard.
Norwegian.
Yeah, Svalbard. I'll just do that.
Svalbard.
Yeah, so I that's all I'm gonna say for now because it's classified. You can
Does it talk?
FOIA. No, it doesn't talk. The cactus is a counterintelligence nightmare because the
Right,
cactus
because it
speaks.
repeats whatever it hears.
Yes, out loud, out
Yeah.
loud. The snowman is very stealthy, does not talk,
Do you want to
and
hear a joke about not talking?
sure, why
Uh,
not?
all right. So, two horses at a racetrack are chatting about their situations in life and why they're not winning more races. And the first of them says, for me, honestly, I'm just feeling the pain, of a lot of years of running. My shins are starting to splint up, and I just don't feel it anymore. I don't really care if I win or not. The other one says, for me, honestly, my heart's still in the game, but it's my jockey. He's gained some weight. I'm, look, I'm still happy to run, but this guy's got to, play the game and go on Ozempic. And this greyhound who's walking by, who also races at the track, says, "Look, I don't have a jockey, um, and I think you both need to just sort of knuckle down and do the thing." because, we're race animals and this is a track, and one horse looks at another and says, "Oh my God, it's a talking dog." There you go.
Very good.
It's a talking cactus, but
And then
not a talking snowman, because it's ridiculous to think a snowman could talk.
exactly. So anyway, that's all I'll say today. I'll put them aside and I will resume the show as my normal self. And Ben, I don't know what you have planned today, but it's a hard day for me. I'm not gonna lie. I I have a colonoscopy tomorrow. And
Oh God,
yeah,
those are the worst.
well, and this is my second one in a year because the first one was unsuccessful. And don't want to get more graphic than that. But the short version is it turns out both my husband and myself have what is called by the medical community a big and tall colon. It's Our theory is that we are both tall with long torsos compared to our legs. So there's a lot of room there for colon material. And so our colons have,
Grew to fit like
yeah,
koi.
exactly.
They kind of grew to fit the container.
That's right.
Yeah.
Incidentally, I also birthed massive babies, just massive babies, which would also fit that theory. So yes, the big and tall colon is a problem for the colonoscopies because it apparently takes more time and effort to clean the colon. And so my husband had his own ordeal with that, but I also I had an unsuccessful one last year, and so I have to go back. But the problem is I I don't do well like at all without food. I know some people can like sort of manage, but I don't do well at all. Like it really I get shaky, I get very emotionally unstable. Um it is not pretty at all. So I'm, honestly I'm taking a risk by being on the show today because just full disclaimer, I don't take responsibility for anything I say or do on the show today because I am hangry.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you colonoscopy jokes.
Oh,
Um, but these are both not really colonoscopy jokes. They're both actually true stories. So one of them is a story that my dad tells about, um, my dad was for many years a clinical oncologist, and so he had a fair bit of experience with colonoscopies, and he describes doing rounds at Sloan Kettering, where he later became the physician in chief, with a group of medical students and this oncologist who was from some deep south location or not, and they were reviewing I don't know, colonoscopy. It would have been pre-colonoscopy, so some kind of X-ray or something. And one of the medical students pointed to something and said, uh, that's, in this part of the ascending colon, and the southern doctor barked at him, "Son, all colon is ascending. You mean the ascending colon." Um, so there you go. All colon is ass ending.
yeah. So
Um,
I wrote a whole, if anyone wants real amusement, I restacked what I wrote last year about my colonoscopy, which also dovetailed with my failed efforts to train our new rescue dog Lilo, who I think viewers may remember.
yeah, from his starring appearance in
Well, but he's now banished because he can't behave in here, even with the water gun deployed. So he's generally banished to,
The Cactus is just
and Yeah, and he's afraid of the
supervising him.
cactus
Yeah.
and the snowman. There's a lot of issues there. So anyway, but the subtitle of that post was "I'm having my ass handed to me in more ways than one."
There
So,
you go.
and that's still true. I have to go back in just 1 year later and get my ass handed to me there, and then Lilo continues to hand my ass to me every single day.
All right, you ready for the other one?
Oh yes, sorry, I didn't mean to
Okay, so this is
interrupt.
before there were colonoscopies, regular colonoscopies. They sometimes had to do this thing called the barium enema.
Yes,
And the barium enema,
teacher.
for those of you who were not old enough to remember the barium enema or who never had one performed on yourselves, it was this weird procedure where they fill your colon with a slightly radioactive substance, very slightly, that appears on x-rays differently, and then they scan you from all different kinds of angles with your colon full of this stuff. And you can only imagine what happens afterwards when they it requires, actually, I'm going to get a little bit graphic, it requires an inflatable butt plug to prevent the barium from pouring out. It's a really, you think colonoscopies are bad, but you're knocked out for it. They're actually a dream compared to the barium enema. So I didn't know anything about this, but I was a high school student, um, and I was taking chemistry. And we had this fabulous chemistry teacher that we all loved, whose name was Mrs. Cater. And Mrs. Cater, if you're still with us and you happen to be watching Dog Shirt TV this morning, I still love you. She was a great chemistry teacher and she was a hilarious person. And there was one of the cool things about Mrs. Cater was that she had these weird figures of speech. So she used to measure the difficulty of chemistry problems in distance. And the distance in question was how long it took her to solve the problem on her exercise bike. And so if you said, Mrs. Cater, that problem was really hard, she'd say, no, that was only a quarter of a mile. Or that, or yeah, that one was really hard. That one took me 2 miles. So the other thing she would do is if you ever complained about something, her response was, oh, that Miss Cater, that test was really hard. Oh, it's better than a barium enema. And, none of us like sophomores or juniors in high school like knew what a barium enema
Nobody
was.
had had a colonoscopy at that age?
We'd never, like
Or
teenagers
colon issues? No
don't
colon.
generally have colon issues. And so, it was just this response, like you'd say thank you and she'd say you're welcome. You'd say that was really hard. She'd say it was better than a barium enema, and we didn't really think about it. It was just this funny thing that she said. Okay, so fast forward a few years, and I actually had to have a barium enema.
Oh Lord, I'm so
And
sorry.
barium enema, it's not like a colonoscopy, okay? I'm going to get graphic for a minute.
Why
They
not?
lie you on a table that can tilt, in any direction, an omnidirectional thing, because they want to be able to control where the barium sloshes in the colon. They then, it has the same prep as the colonoscopy, which is to say, you have to really spend a lot of time not eating and being hangry and, vacating the colon. I'm not going to get more graphic than that. But so then you come in there in a kind of a raw state, and then they lie you on this table and they put this plug in the ass ending part of your ascending colon, and they fill the colon with this like thick, soupy barium, and there's a lot of it. And you feel like you're going to explode, which
Oh,
eventually, by the way, you do, but that's more graphic than we need to get.
oh,
And
like a
then
nuclear explosion, even.
to to add to the drama, they then start tilting the table in different directions and taking pictures. Um, and I'm lying there on the table, and I was young, and there was actually nothing wrong with me. I was probably 23 or 24. And all I can think of is, my God, Mrs. Cater was right. Every time she said that problem was better than a barium enema,
She was
she
right.
was channeling the word of God into my head, and I didn't know it at the time. But here I am comparing. Well, there was that problem with the, where is the valence on the blank atom, this positive or negative, and I'm thinking, oh, not as bad as a barium enema. And I didn't listen to her.
Okay, so here's the question, Ben, and the chat is begging us to transition away from this topic. So I'm gonna use it as a metaphor. So the question is what we're living through now here in America, is that better than a barium enema or worse?
I would do a barium enema every day for a
I would agree.
year
I think it's
to
worse.
change. And I would even like go all Katie Couric and do the show live from the barium enema.
Yeah.
We could even rename the show and just do it every day. I think I'd probably, if you did that much barium enemaing, you'd probably have, like radiation exposure from it. Wouldn't be a good thing. But yeah, sign me the fuck up.
I agree, and also I feel like the nation um, needs a barium enema to be convinced of how shitty this is.
So to speak.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, and then John Hawkinson has been begging us to make a metaphor to how Zelensky was treated in the Oval Office, which I think was worse than a barium enema as well.
Yeah, the thing about a barium enema is that it is humiliating and you feel like a piece of meat, but it is only humiliating in front of a very small number of people, and you do get the story for the rest of your life. You know,
Well,
and
so it's the same. It's the same. MAGA thinks he was humiliated, but I feel like globally that's a relatively small number of people, and the rest of the world is outraged on his behalf.
right, but there's no question that it was an intentional attempt to humiliate him.
No, that's true. That's true. But I think in the end, I mean, for most of the world, they humiliated themselves.
Yes, or at least disgraced themselves. I think if you're not capable of feeling humiliation, like if you feel like you're King Kong and you're thumping on your chest, the fact that a lot of people look at you as uh, with enormous contempt doesn't actually make it like I think humiliation is like I'm humiliated, but
Yes.
Trump is not humiliated.
I think Marco Rubio might have been humiliated.
Well, I frickin' hope so.
Yeah.
Um, because little Marco was never so small as that day. And
He
he
looked
has
humiliated.
been punked, and nobody could deserve it more.
Amen. Amen, brother. Yeah.
All right. So, other than not eating and drinking things that have very unfortunate consequences, uh, and not in the alcoholic way. What have you been up to this weekend?
Well, I came out in the Arctic air, straight from Svalbard, or however you say it. I still can't say it. To for one of your projections, and then I attempted to come out for a second one, but apparently you were, waved off by a police officer. But I did come down to the mall
I
for
have
the.
figured out, I'm going to disclose for y'all the secret to mall-based projections. All right, here it is.
Okay.
Every time I project on the Capitol side of 3rd Street, I get shut down pretty fast.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the reason for that is that whatever the police force that shows up, That's actually Capitol Police jurisdiction. And the Capitol Police
Hmm.
are really, really, for good reasons, for obvious reasons, strict, and they operate under a different set of regs. But if you operate on the north side of 3rd Street, when there's some good walls there, by the way, there's the Air and
Yeah,
Space
very good.
Museum, you got your Hirschhorn, you got
Yeah.
big walls on the north side of 3rd Street. The park police really don't care. And so I think it's a location thing, but the
Yeah.
National Gallery, I was up for about 5 minutes and they shut me down. So I decamped to the Hirschhorn and things were fine. Although you don't have that beautiful view of Capitol Hill. So I only got that one picture. Um, but, um, you know,
Was it Capitol Police? Because the car I saw when we showed up was Metro Police.
it was neither. It was the National Gallery Police,
Oh,
which
they can't
it was
arrest.
actually two old men. I couldn't tell if they were a private security force or if they were actually police, but they were neither park police nor MPD nor and it's the second time this has happened on that same wall. So I think the critical thing in the future is do that wall very quickly when it's already dark and then have a place you're going afterwards because you're not going to be up for more than a few minutes.
Yeah, I would think the park police are maybe sympathetic to your cause.
Yeah. All right. I want to address Mr. Jeff and everybody else on all social media that is complaining about the font. There's no font. And so let me tell you a little bit about how vector graphics work because a lot of people are upset about my font and there's not that much I can do about it. Okay. So one possibility is to project text. And if you use text, you have all kinds of access to different fonts, but you have a very limited amount of space. And the space, once you exceed that space, you can get maybe 2 words in, you gotta scroll. Um, and so if you see like the one that Holly and I did the other night at the base of the Washington Monument, that is advantage. The font is super clear. It even looks like the Trump Hotel font. It can be pretty colors, right? And disadvantage, you cannot take a still image of it because it's scrolling in order to fit more on the screen. So, um, option number 2, you can do something very short, child killers, like I did on the ambassador's house, something that fits the entire thing so that you can use a font and not scroll. That's option number 2. You can't say Trump and Putin shills or the Russians kill Putin, Trump and Vance shill in that space. So how do you create option 3, which is a longer text static image? And the answer is you have to program it uh, with a vector graphic. So there's no font, that's just an image. Okay. So I spent some time yesterday afternoon creating an image of that text. Now, when below a certain level of complexity, if you the laser will render the image without rounding edges, without it will just project the image. That's, say, my Ukrainian flag image, right? Above a certain level of complexity, the laser can't render it perfectly. So the laser starts um, making hard corners into curves. The laser starts modifying things to make it simpler to project. Um, so you end up with distortions. That's what happened yesterday. And people think it's a font. It's not a font. Here, let me share with you what the
Not a
thing,
font, people. It's not a
what it was supposed to look like here. And you will see that the font choice is perfectly normal. But what isn't normal is, hang on, I'm sharing the font, the actual image that this is based on. Um, Here we go. There you go. Um, and you'll see when the laser rendered that, I had to trace it, kind of, I don't know what, it's like by hand electronically. When the laser renders that, that's how it comes out looking. Now, could I do something about that? Yes, I could make it scroll, but I don't want to make it scroll. Could I do something else about it? Yes, I could display something much shorter like Trump and Vance shill, but then it doesn't have the Russians kill. And so everything's a trade-off. Um,
See,
and
I feel like in the 21st century, people don't they're not willing, especially in the West, the decadent West. People don't understand trade-offs. They think you can really have everything all the
they
time.
think you can have it all. And, if they're Anne Marie Slaughter and then they write whole Atlantic articles about women can't have it all. I'm just saying, as a man who has a laser projector, I can't have it all either.
So are
And
you saying that if you were like, let's say you were like Steven Spielberg or someone, I mean, not to denigrate your skills, which are obviously very, very high level compared to mine. But are you saying Steven Spielberg could not do something
okay,
better?
so there is the actual solution, what Himmler might call the final solution to this problem. Uh,
Bad joke, given that we're talking about two Jews.
oh, well, I'm allowed to make Nazi jokes and final solution jokes because,
Okay, I'm not doing it. I'm
because
not
I
good
would
at
have been, cooked in an oven real fast. Um,
doing it.
so, yeah, it's probably better if you don't do that. But so okay, look, the actual solution to this problem is more than one laser. Um, so
Uh,
if I had had Lord Laser and Lady Laser there, then Lord Laser could have done the top row. I could have done it on two lines with two
you,
different lasers. And that's actually the right answer. The problem is Lady Laser is in laser hospital right now. She's a little bit under the weather, and I need to do some work
she's
on.
getting a colonoscopy.
She's getting a colonoscopy. Actually, what's really wrong with Lady Laser is that her heads are misaligned, and so everything she projects comes out double right now, which I'm kind of pissed off about.
I
Um,
think my head is also misaligned.
yeah, so you and she have a lot in common. Um,
Is she 50?
no, she's young. That's what's
Oh,
annoying
early
about
for
it. Like
menopause.
she's not at the stage where she should be doing this yet.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. I'm at the stage where I should be doing this.
so I'm just saying, you know, anybody, there's a lot of complaints about the font on social media. There's a lot of complaints, and I understand from a consumer point of view that the projection, the image was
Here's
not
what I
ideal.
say. And here's what I say anytime someone who will remain nameless around here complains about my performance as because here's the deal. When I quit my job, the deal with my husband was that I would become a trad wife here at home. Like I would basically take over all of the functions and duties of the house, managing the household, and this would be my new occupation, given that you, Ben, or nobody else is really paying me for anything that, can you believe I do this without getting paid, y'all? I mean, come on. Anyway, it's being a just a loudmouth on the internet and in writing and on Substack. It doesn't pay that much actually, and
Well,
also,
it will.
but and actually writing
There's going
books.
to be this point like 18 months from now where all of a sudden the money is going to be rolling in.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's an investment
Anyway, in the
in trad
meantime,
wife influencer life.
I am a very poor excuse for a trad wife. So my husband sometimes has um, feedback on how I'm managing various things, such as our internet speed. And I'm like, look, I am not an IT professional IT person here. Like I am a humanities major And that is what I signed up for. I did not sign up for figuring out how to get internet. So I feel like you also you're well exceeding your job description.
I mean,
Journalist.
anybody who has a background in vector graphics who wants to, instead of tweeting at me that the font sucks, who wants to do, you know, programming or vector graphics design for Lord Laser to optimize the number of lines of text that you can present in still images with no scrolling, and that's for maximum readability over variable projection distance on different targets, I might add. When I make these, I don't know if I'm going to be projecting on the National Gallery or on the Hirshhorn or on the ground. And so I'm just saying, you got a complaint, come work on the problem, or, I'm doing what I can with what I
I
got.
keep saying, like, well, I'm doing a better job than you who are doing nothing.
Well, and look, also, um, my first video this weekend has 1 million views on Instagram alone.
So
And
does
so,
our Fork
like,
You video on Twitter.
enough people, are seeing it and understanding what it says. So, to Jeff, um, and I'm just making fun of Jeff because he's good humored and he can take it. But if you're one of the people who's razzing me about the font on on Blue Sky, dudes, I know I'm not satisfied with the image either. It's the best I could do for the project with 45 minutes of work, okay? And could I create a better image if I spent all day on it? Maybe. I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure, but could I if I used both lasers? Absolutely.
And actually, Ben, you could say the same thing about the people who complain about you more generally on the internet. Like, you're doing the best you can with what you have to work with.
Yeah,
Being
and it's
with
like a
us.
freaking dog
I mean,
turd. I mean, it's
I would like to see them try to be a better Ben Wittes with what you have on to work with. They couldn't do it. They could not do it.
well, that's interesting because some of them would say they wouldn't want to be a better Ben Wittes
Well,
because
then they need to just move on with their lives.
so John Hawkinson proposes betterbenjaminwittis.substack.com. I do not aspire to be a better Benjamin Wittes. I aspire to be a minimally adequate uh, Benjamin Wittes. I don't know if I'm there yet, but I'm going for minimally adequate functionality.
Yeah.
And I think we got like nobody who's complaining about the font actually can't read it. Adequate Ben Wittes is taken. Um, and Auntie,
Really adequate Benjamin Wittes is taken?
no, I think Jeff is joking.
Okay.
But
You never
Auntie
know.
proposes the Finnish Benjamin Wittes. I would say, oh, speaking of things that jokes that people didn't get over the weekend, I had a conversation with the great Minna Olander in Finnish. It was my first text exchange in Finnish. Every single one of my lines was written by Google Translate.
Ah,
Um, and so I posted it and with Minna's permission, with a sarcastic note that said, with absolutely no help from Google Translate, promise, pinky swear, blah, blah, blah. And now a whole bunch of people on the internet think I speak Finnish. Um, Guess what, people? I
lean
don't
into
speak
it.
Finnish.
Lean into it.
I was joking. Minna and I had an exchange that was on my side almost entirely. The only part of it that was not um, uh, written by Google Translate
You know
is,
what? Just lean into it. It adds to your mystique, you know?
yeah, okay.
Like Pete Buttigieg, supposedly he speaks like 6 languages. I don't believe that. Does he really speak Norwegian? I
I
don't
don't
believe.
know. I don't speak Norwegian. But look, folks, I was kidding. I don't speak Finnish. The day I speak Finnish, I will well enough, I will do the introduction to the show in Finnish. I think I could do the introduction to the show in Ukrainian. I think.
I
I
could do it in
think
Swahili.
I think I could do the introduction to the show in Spanish.
I got
That's
Swahili.
it.
That's it.
I could definitely could not do the introduction to the show in French, German, Hebrew, or German or Finnish. Definitely not. The day I'm ready to do it in Finnish, you will see Auntie and Minna on one side and me on the other, and I'll do it, and we'll have them grade me. But it's not going to be for a long time, okay? So, could you do it in Swahili?
Oh, absolutely. You want me to do it right now?
Well, I want you to do You're Watching Dog Shirt TV, a fucking revolution in morning television.
I don't know fucking, but I can do the rest. You
Okay,
want me to do it right
let's hear it.
Mnatazama programu ya shati ya mbwa ya televisheni ni mapinduzi ya televisheni ya asubuhi.
There you go. Maybe we should collect this in languages, different languages. Auntie, would you like to come on and do the introduction in Finnish? All right, Auntie's going to come on and do. If you guys have different languages and want to pop on screen and do them, I see Ev is there. Ev, you should come do it in
Bienvenue.
in Quebecois French, or
Oh,
Acadian French.
Ev, I have something to. Do you have an actual agenda today, or do you just want me to bullshit some more?
Oh, no. The agenda was all colonoscopies.
Because I'm in punchy mood here. Ev, so Ben, I'm sure you don't watch, but maybe some others in our audience do watch White Lotus. The
I've
program.
never watched White Lotus, but I hear good things about it.
Yeah, so the third season is out, and the third episode came out last night, which I watched last night. And there is a character, well, her exact origin is ambiguous, but she claims to be French Canadian. And there's another character who's just this douchebag American dude who tries to say that she's French, and she gets very hostile with him and is like, no, I'm French Canadian. And he's like, what is the difference? And she just about, So I thought of Ev.
Yeah. Well, Ev, if you want to come on and do the introduction because maybe what we need is a sonic pastiche of the introductions in different languages, maybe all on top of each other, so that like 10 people at the same time, along with the cactus in English, are all saying, you're watching Dog Shirt TV, a fucking revolution, or an effing revolution, or just a revolution in morning television. In fact, if you know how to say that in any language, record yourself saying it and send it to me, and I will create such a sonic pastiche.
I'll do a better job. Now that I think about it, I got one of my articles wrong. So it should have been Shati la mbwa.
Ev says she can't join, but the White Lotus character truly is French Canadian.
Oh, are you sure, Ev? Because I think there's supposed to be some mystery about her. I think it's going to be revealed that there's something there. I mean, that's true of all the characters. That's kind of the point of White Lotus, is that, oh, you mean the actress is French Canadian. Oh, I get it. Okay. All right. Well, good for her. In the show, I'm not sure what any of them are going to turn out to be. So,
well, in our mysterious White Lotus scenario, somebody turns out to be a high school chemistry teacher traumatized by a barium enema, who's constantly reminding her students who don't know this reality, what they're in for later in life.
Well, I hope it doesn't come. Do they still do those, do you think?
I don't think so. I think the modern colonoscopy is so much more effective
What if
than
it's
any
not though?
other imaging technique that it's largely supplanted everything else. But I don't know. I'm not a radiologist, and I gotta say, if I were a radiologist, I'm not sure, you know, figuring out how to image people's colons would be like the thing that I was most excited to do.
Well, it needs to be done though,
It
so
does.
somebody's gonna do it. I'm just hoping that if I'm unsuccessful again here with my big and tall colon, that it's not gonna come to a barium enema.
As long as you're not on a table that they're tilting the whole table to get a better angle on you, um, I think you're being spared the ultimate humiliation.
So Jeff suggests we talk about passing kidney stones yet next, which I have not done. But there's various other medical things, particularly Africa related, that I could discuss if we need a topic.
Malaria?
Well, I've had malaria.
Have you had malaria?
Oh yeah. That's not as exciting as the jigger in my toe. The jigger, which is not a chigger. Chigger's American. A jigger is African. It is a parasite. That is a good story. Do
All
you want
right,
me
let's hear it.
to- Okay.
Yeah, trigger warning, jigger warning.
This is graphic.
You see, you hear you get see what I did there? We
Yeah.
gave a jigger warning. All right, first,
Okay.
what is a chigger?
A
And what's the
jigger.
difference between a chigger and a
So
jigger?
now a chigger is some sort of biting insect here in America, in the South. I've had it's kind of like a mosquito bite, except they seem to spread, so maybe it does get in your skin and maybe I do know you have to paint the bites with if you paint the bites with nail polish, it kills whatever is in there.
Aren't
Like
chiggers just like a southern word for gnat?
I don't know. I don't know what a chigger is. I've had chigger bites in the South, but and it's basically an itchy, like a flea bite or something like that.
Yeah.
A jigger is what, well, most of the time should be a very small parasite that is in the dirt in some countries, including Kenya, apparently. And if you play in the dirt, as I did as a child, which is now why I'm immune to almost everything in the world, except for maybe Ebola and apparently this chest cold that I've had for a week that necessitates that I suck on a cough drop at all times.
And we don't know that you're immune from colon cancer, which is
Well, I don't
why
know
you're
about cancer.
hangry today.
No, things that are,
Communicable.
yeah, things that are like, critter related. Anyway, a jigger is a
Oh,
small.
wait, we have a correction going on in the chat, and we got to be, we're the publisher of the Beast of the Day, so we got to be precise. It turns out the chigger is an arachnid, not an insect like a gnat. It's, related to it's like a mite or a spider. Beast of the Day is not going to be the chigger because they're unpleasant and they're not
Look up a
valorous.
jigger, which I don't know what the actual name of a jigger is, but in Kenya it's called a jigger. So I don't know what it's called in like proper or even other languages, but it's called jigger. So they live in the dirt, and those in the know, which is basically all Kenyans, know that when you come in at the end of the day, you wash your feet. If you've been barefoot or have had toes exposed in the dirt, you wash your feet at the end of the day. But if you are a 9-year-old American child who recently arrived, does not know what a jigger is, and has very poor hygiene generally, you don't wash your feet at the end of the day, and eventually you will get a jigger in your toe. Now, if you're a Kenyan, you know that when your toe starts itching as if there's a mosquito bite on it, but there is no mosquito bite on it, that means you have a jigger. And apparently what they do is they just sort of stick a pin and just sort of pluck it out, and it's tiny, and so it's not a big deal, because they catch it early because they know what it is. But again, if you are an American child recently arrived, you don't know why your toe is itching. You think it's a mosquito bite. You don't mention it to your parents because they have souls to win and people to save. And so you just like ignore it. And then one day after, I don't know, a month of your toe itching, you take a closer look at your toe and you see an entire worm in your toe, under the skin, what is clearly a worm or organism of some kind. Okay.
How long is it
So
relative to a
ran
9-year-old
the
toe?
length of it ran the length of my toenail. So like, that not very long, but visible, clearly visible.
And
Wait,
Um,
we've got Auntie here.
can you hear me?
Let's hear it, Auntie.
So you can hear me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, excellent. So, vitun vallankumous aamu-TV:ssä.
Oh, that's the intro. I thought he was going to say something profound about jiggers.
Okay, I could do that too.
Wait, you're
That's a
watching
fucking
Dog Shirt
revolutioning
TV
morning
and
TV.
effing
I
revolution
don't
in
mean to
morning
be critical
television?
because
Yeah.
I like Finns, but you interrupted my flow.
I'm sorry. I know you're angry, so I mean, I'm sorry.
You're taking a risk. I realize the Finns have a very good military, but I'm really not to be trifled with today. So
That's fine. You can be whatever. That's,
All right, say it again, Auntie.
Vitun vallankumous aamu-TV:ssä.
Efficient language. Wow, you're packing
Wow,
a lot
that is.
into a very small number of syllables
you
there.
could do a variation on a theme in something like vitunmoinen vallankumous aamu-TV:ssä.
yeah, Swahili is not that efficient because there's not that many words, and so you have to like string together a lot of words. So
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I think Finnish has a word for everything. So
Well, one of the cool things about Finnish, I've been doing Duolingo Finnish recently, is that I have done, I don't know, 10 or 12 lessons, and I have not run across a single word that is a cognate with English.
okay, I hate to be rude, but there's only 11 minutes left, and I must finish my story.
All right,
I'm sorry.
we're
Go
gonna
ahead.
turn the floor back to Holly. When
Thanks.
last we left this gripping tale, Holly had discovered a worm in her toe and
That's right.
was talking about how long the worm was relative to the toe.
Right.
Which toe
So-
was it?
My right big toe. So then at that point, I alerted my mother that there was a worm.
Wait, you haven't answered the question though. We got your 9-year-old right big toe.
Yeah.
How much of it is taken up by worm?
Basically the side of my toe along the nail, and it was wide and the full length of my nail, and again a clearly visible organism under
Wow.
the skin.
Was it moving?
Not perceptibly, but we'll get to that.
All right.
So I alerted my mother that there was some being living in my toe, and so she took a look at it and was, horrified and didn't know what to do. So she asked our house worker the next day, what the hell is this? And the house worker's like, oh, that's a jigger. That's no big deal. We just pluck them out with a pin, and it's not a big deal. You just have to get it out. And she said, oh, my Jokey, which is her at the time 16-year-old daughter, is very good at this, and you just let Jokey handle it, and it will be fine.
I smell a massive infection coming.
So my mother decided to allow a 16-year-old Kenyan girl to do surgery with a safety pin on my toe with no anesthesia. Now, she did use alcohol to sterilize the pin. But long story short, Jokey, who I'm still in touch with this day, I saw her last summer, and we joked every time I see her, we talk about this story. Jokey goes in there with a safety pin thinking, again, this is a jigger, even though you could see that this was like the Jabba the Hutt of jiggers. Like, this is not your normal
The
jigger.
top of the hut kind of looks like a jigger.
Yeah,
actually.
this is like an American jigger that has been feasting on McDonald's for like a full month, living in my toe. So, but Jokey's like, okay, I've been told to get the jigger out with a safety pin. So she digs at my toe, and I'm in screaming agony for like 30 minutes. She does remove the jigger, which is sizable. The jigger had also laid eggs in my toe, which she had to dig out as well. There was a whole family, soon to be family of jiggers in my toe that she also had to dig
So
out.
there was like a jigger abortion going on here, among
Yeah.
other things.
Which my mother, who is pro-life, apparently had no problem with.
That's interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
just checking.
Very pro-life. That's why she supports Trump, is because of the abortion, but not only human abortions, not jigger abortions. So, so anyway, terrible
Not
pain.
that the jigger had any choice about this, by the way.
Well, the jigger did move into my toe.
Right, but it did not. Did it have choice about whether to lose its babies?
No,
No.
no. So
Well,
anyway,
not pro-life or pro-choice.
so Jokey, so the next day, my mother decided that maybe I should see a doctor, or like a real one that went to a school more than 10th grade, and takes me. And there, we lived in a small town, but there was some very basic medical care, which, you know, a jigger would probably suffice. So she decides that maybe she should take me in, and he cleaned it out. So I didn't get an infection because he cleaned it out. But he said that Jokey actually did a really good job and got all the jigger out. But it was something I will never forget. And then after that, I wore shoes. I didn't always wear shoes, actually, because it's way more. But I washed my feet thoroughly at the end of the day, as instructed.
All right, I got a question. You get the jigger out. How big is it, and what does it look like?
It looks kind of like you know those grubs, like when you dig in your yard, those grubs, those little white little worms that are in your yard. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? That's what it looked like.
And did you give it a name?
I did not.
It was just the jigger.
Yeah. If only I could go back in time, I would
What would
definitely.
you name it? J.D. Vance?
Probably Jabba the Hutt, because I mean that's kind
Jabba,
of what it
yeah.
reminded, just Jabba, you know. And she also jobbed at my toe with a safety pin. 10th grade girl. Yeah. This is my parents made a lot of very, very questionable decisions regarding my care during my childhood, and frankly continue to make a lot of, in my opinion, very questionable choices in their lives.
Well, so I don't want to criticize your parents, but I have to say that that one doesn't seem to me that bad.
Said some American cushy guy that has never had a jigger dug out of his toe by a 16-year-old.
Yeah, but how much less painful was it going to be if it was going to, if it had been done by a doctor?
Are you kidding? In America, they would like push you under general anesthesia to remove that. They wouldn't even, in America, they just, I mean, that's why our healthcare is so
Yeah,
expensive.
but I understand
just
that,
get a
Holly. But,
16-year-old from the
wait a
store
minute.
and do
You
most
weren't
of
in
it.
America. And so
Right.
you were not going to have your toe dealt
I
with by
think-
George Washington University Hospital or Nova Medical, whatever. You were going to have it dealt with by somebody in the field with a relative, something more or less like a needle. And Jokey did a pretty
That
good
did a little
job.
bit,
If you'd
you know?
gone to the doctor, would they have done general anesthesia there?
No, but they could have deadened it a little bit. You know, there's like basic deadening that you can put on your skin, you know?
Are you sure the issue here isn't just that you're hangry and being whiny? And that maybe Jokey did fine?
Oh, gaslit right now. This is I've just told you a major trauma from my childhood, and you are minimizing it.
That's
Excuse
exactly
me?
what's happening because
You're like Zelensky in the Oval Office right now. My country, my toe was invaded by a Russian jigger, and it's caused pain and destruction.
Look, I'm
and you are
just
there
asking
blaming
questions.
me.
I'm just asking questions, looking at it from the alternative point of view of the jigger, of the Kenyan 16-year-old healthcare system. I think you're you know, just as Tulsi Gabbard says, we've had a whole media ecosystem you know, designed to paint Russians as the bad guys. You know, Jokey's medical skills turn out to have been just fine, says the doctor. 16-year-old, she did a good job with it. And you're sitting here like 35 years later, kind of complaining about it. And I'm just saying, like, what if the problem was you, Holly?
Man, what if you were in this room with me right now? I would attack you with a safety pin. I would go digging in your toe with a safety pin is what I
The
would do.
cactus. You would take one of the tines from the
That's right.
cactus.
I would sink the cactus on you and the snowman.
All right, guys, we have 3 minutes left, and I have some major announcements. Number one, this is the only episode of the show this week that is going to be entirely devoted to disgusting medical stories, from barium enemas to jigger digging in toes. Number two, we have a choice, and you guys get to vote in the chat right now. Tomorrow morning at 8:50, I'm going to be on a train to New Haven, which means we can't do the show at 8 o'clock. We can do the show at 9 o'clock if and only if you want a show from the Amtrak. Otherwise, we got to cancel the show or do it in the evening or
I will
something.
not be involved because at that point I will be in very bad condition.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, so if you want an Amtrak show, um,
Colonoscopy free.
no colonoscopies on the Amtrak show. I will try to do one. Bruce suggests live from the GI suite. That would be very Katie Couric of you. So I will try to be there. I will be with Nastia and her husband Eric and baby Ava. And so it may be a chaotic show. I'm going to require that at least one co-host be with me because I'm going to be flitting in and out of being hearable. Tomorrow's show at 9 o'clock, live from the Amtrak. Ev, if you are able to join tomorrow, or if that would be fabulous, because somebody needs to be able to talk while I'm flitting in and out. Number two, there's going to be a similar issue on Wednesday when I have to come back from New Haven. We're going to figure that out. I'm not sure how that's going to work. And then Thursday, I have to fly to Argentina. There will be a normal show on Thursday, but Friday, I'll be in the air. And so I think there will just be no show on Friday. So we're going to have a sporadic set of weird episodes this week, but I'm pretty sure no show on Friday because I'll be like landing in Buenos Aires. Folks, we're going to be back 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'll be on an Amtrak. You'll be wherever you are. Holly will be
I will be on a toilet.
on a table.
No, not yet. I'll be on a toilet.
Holly will be on a toilet, which is more information about Holly than you deserve to get. But there's good news at the end of the day, which is that Holly doesn't have colon cancer. And so the results are going to be that sense of relief when you get told your big and tall colon is pristine, you're fine, will be like that feeling when the doctor cleans out your chigger wound and said, actually, Jokey did a pretty good job. Like there are no eggs left in no chigger eggs left in your toe. May all your medical procedures go as well as Jokey's removal of Holly's jigger, and may you have days as bright as the sun. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping. It is going to be a great effing day. And whether in Finnish or Swahili or even in English, this is Dog Shirt TV.